In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro discusses the decision by NBC News to cut ties with Ronna McDaniel, the former RNC chairwoman. Shapiro criticizes NBC News for their decision, pointing out the lack of objectivity in their roster of talent. He highlights the presence of controversial figures like Al Sharpton, Brian Williams, Joy Reid, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Simone Sanders, and Laura O'Donnell on NBC and MSNBC, questioning the network's commitment to diversity of thought. Shapiro notes that while NBC News is a private organization and has the right to hire and fire as they see fit, their decision to sever ties with McDaniel raises questions about their objectivity. He points out the hypocrisy in NBC News's decision, given their history of hiring and promoting individuals with controversial backgrounds. The podcast delves into the reactions within NBC News to McDaniel's hiring, with anchors and staff expressing their discomfort and objections to her appointment. Shapiro criticizes the left for their efforts to silence opposing viewpoints and control the narrative, citing the backlash against McDaniel as an example of this trend. The discussion then shifts to the broader issue of political discourse in America, with Shapiro highlighting the left's efforts to close the Overton window and silence dissenting voices. He argues that this approach has only served to polarize the political landscape further, leading to a reactionary right that seeks to challenge the left's dominance in media and public discourse. Shapiro also touches on the legal challenges faced by former President Trump, including a gag order imposed on him in a hush-money trial. He criticizes the attempt to silence Trump, arguing that it infringes on his First Amendment rights and portrays him as a victim, ultimately playing into his favor. The podcast then explores the rise of RFK Jr. as a third-party candidate and the potential impact on the upcoming election. Shapiro discusses RFK Jr.'s choice of Nicole Shanahan as his vice presidential candidate, noting her left-leaning views and potential appeal to disaffected Democratic voters. He highlights the concerns within the Democratic Party about RFK Jr.'s candidacy and the potential impact on Joe Biden's re-election prospects. Shapiro criticizes Joe Biden for steering towards the left and adopting policies similar to Bernie Sanders. He believes that this move has put Biden in a difficult political position. He points out that the Democratic Party's strategy of steering to the left and focusing on minority groups and liberal women did not work in the past and is unlikely to work in the future. He also criticizes Biden's approach towards Israel, suggesting that his attempts to win over Muslim voters in Michigan by criticizing Israel are misguided. Shapiro discusses the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, highlighting the Israeli government's decision to go into Rafah to dismantle the remaining Hamas battalions. He criticizes the Biden administration for trying to create distance between the U.S. and Israel in order to appease Muslim voters. Shapiro emphasizes that any decision celebrated by Iran and Hamas is not in the best interest of the United States and Israel. The podcast delves into a Supreme Court case regarding access to the abortion pill, specifically focusing on the issue of standing. Shapiro explains that the case revolves around whether doctors and medical associations have the standing to sue the FDA over its decision to expedite the approval of the abortion pill. He highlights the arguments made by both sides and predicts that the current FDA regulations will likely be upheld based on the issue of standing. Shapiro discusses the rising crime rates in cities like New York, emphasizing the need for more police officers on the streets and the importance of allowing law enforcement to do their job effectively. He criticizes the shift away from policies like stop and frisk and broken windows theory, which were successful in reducing crime in the past. Shapiro argues that recidivism, severe mental illness, and random acts of violence can be addressed by keeping criminals in jail, providing treatment for the mentally ill, and allowing law enforcement to maintain order. The podcast touches on the unsustainability of the Social Security system in the United States. Shapiro highlights the concerns raised by Larry Fink of BlackRock about the global retirement crisis and the strain on retirement safety nets like Social Security. He emphasizes the need for individuals to invest in capital markets for secure retirements and criticizes the current system as a pyramid scheme that is bound to collapse. He points out that the aging population and fewer taxable workers are contributing to the impending crisis.